Hello and welcome to the Inside the Ropes Raw Rundown. My name is Kenny McIntosh and I'm in a very good mood because it has never pleased me more in the world to say that Robert Duffin was wrong than it will be here today. We are going to talk about Monday Night Raw. We're also going to talk about TNA's latest review offering, LockDown, perhaps Mr. Optimism. I don't know. I've not spoken to him about it. I'm here with Robert Duffin.
Hello, everybody.
That's the happiest you've ever sounded on any radio show we've ever done.
Well, isn't it a glorious day? I woke up this morning and it was light outside for the first time in a long time. It was blue skies. There was not a cloud to be seen. The bus arrived on time to take me to work. And everything that you could possibly imagine went right, and it was almost warm for a Scottish March. What a glorious day to be alive!
It's funny how in the past 24 hours, WrestleMania has changed, potentially drastically. But we'll get to that later on when we talk about Raw. But first of all, I guess we should talk.
Yeah, and don't worry, I still have some bubbling negativity. If we'd recorded this not 24 hours ago because it wouldn't have happened then. If we'd recorded this immediately after Raw, I think I would just have been an absolute, smiling buffoon. But I do have some things to bring up with regards to a certain something. So, but we'll get to it when we get there. First of all,
let's talk about LockDown from Miami with TNA.
Yeah, now we sort of covered this in a sort of painful, non-spoilery way on the show on Monday. So if you're listening to this in the UK, I mean, obviously this Raw Rundown episode of Inside the Ropes goes up on early Wednesday evenings. There is still a chance that you're going to watch LockDown on Challenge TV tonight, so feel free to skip the next 10 minutes tops. And if you just don't like TNA, feel free to do the same. So there's really just three big parts of the show that I want to cover a little bit more in full, but I think I'll run through the show just in general, just to give people a quick result. Some people might be interested to know what happens without actually having to watch it. So yeah, it opened up with a steel cage match, because every match is a steel cage match tonight. Bad Influence and Chris Sabin take on the Great Muta, Sanada, and Yasu, who are over from Wrestle 1 as part of this crossover. Unfortunately, it seems like the pay-per-view that they taped with these guys seems a little bit more appealing than the one that they actually aired, this LockDown show. But I don't think we're going to get that crossover show until May, I think I read. Of note, Daniels and Kazarian are dressed up as Great Muta from the sort of 80s NWA period, so that's quite funny. This is a decent match. As we said on the show on Monday, Muta, Sanada, and Yasu take the pin. Muta can't really go like he used to, but he definitely did enough to please the crowd, what little of them there were, but they certainly wanted to see him, so that was pretty cool. First up is a segment that I was actually interested in talking about, is this one here. Is it this one here? Oh no, sorry, I'm going a little bit further ahead of myself now, because we did have the Mr. Anderson, Samuel Shaw match as well, which Sam Shaw won. I like the American Psycho thing, but they kind of have broken the reality of the storyline, because why would Christy Hemme really be entertaining him in any way now that we know that she has seen the videos of him being a creep? So it kind of has, that's kind of ruined it a little bit for me.
Well, it was ruined for me when we were in Glasgow and she was watching herself being stalked on the big screen. So
yeah, well, at least that wasn't covered on that show. But now we know that she has seen things, and you're just like, what is going on? So it's fun, and he has a fun character, but I think it's a little bit of a broken story. So
I like him though. I do like him.
I do like him. Yeah, I mean, it is another case of TNA just steals so much stuff from film and television. Sting being the Joker, Samuel Shaw is pretty much Dexter / Patrick Bateman. I wouldn't really be surprised if there was a true detective tag team, at some point in the summer, just spouting philosophical nonsense about how the world and time is flat in a circle. But anyway, obviously Ethan Carter III was due to go up against Kurt Angle at this pay-per-view, and Angle's injury that he sustained was a lot more serious than they expected, and genuinely he had to go in for surgery, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't at the pay-per-view. So Ethan Carter III makes his way to the ring, and he says that he wants to, he's always wanted to face the best in the world, not CM Punk, but the best wrestlers that he can meet in the ring, and Angle is kind of the best, and he really wanted to, to be the guy that got to go up against Kurt Angle and possibly beat him. So then he says, open challenge, I'll take on whoever, and of all people to answer the open challenge, Bobby Lashley, the boss, as he got called in TNA last time we saw him, answers the challenge. Ethan Carter immediately retreats, saying that Bobby Lashley is not even on the roster and I will not wrestle you. You don't have a contract, you're not a member, blah, 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 and you should not get in the ring with me because look what I did to Kurt Angle. There's a little brawl, and Lashley hits a big power slam and a spear on Carter, and that's pretty much the end of the segment. So Bobby Lashley's back.
I will say two things about this. Number one, I was very surprised how big the crowd popped for him, because I wouldn't have anticipated that they would have that much of a reaction for him. And also, I thought that he connected pretty well with the crowd for the small time that he was out there. He just looks more confident than he did before. I didn't see a lot of his TNA run, but the last time I really saw him was in WWE, and he was still kind of, looked a bit nervous most of the time. But he kind of looks as if he's got a bit of confidence behind him, and I think he's got value, but unfortunately, Jeff Hardy should have value, and he doesn't. So, I don't know if Bobby Lashley, as an addition to their roster, is really must be really it'll be difficult to kind of gauge where Bobby Lashley's going to go. I mean, I'm guessing that you're not a Bobby Lashley fan.
Not particularly. It's not that I...
Because he's not really... I mean, I think it's fair. We'll not get too far into it because it's a different debate, but I think it's interesting. He's not kind of your type of wrestler, really, is he? Because you kind of... what he brings to the table is not something really that you would really be interested in.
I feel like that's maybe pigeonholing my taste a little bit too much, but...
No, it's not an insult. What I mean by that is that there's some wrestling fans that just like watching big, powerful guys go through people, like Goldberg or whoever. And Lashley's kind of that ilk. He's never going to be a guy that's going to... I mean, he had a great match with John Cena on a pay-per-view in 2007.
Yeah, see, the thing is it's not so much that... It's not really the style of wrestling, it's the person that's delivering it. Does that make sense? I don't mind a guy... just a big guy running through people. But Bobby Lashley just never really strikes me as having it. He just doesn't really intrigue me as a character. I don't necessarily think he's that charismatic. Mm-hmm. I've also not seen an awful lot of his stuff. I mean, to be fair, most of the stuff of Bobby Lashley's I've seen is actually the TNA stuff, not the WWE stuff, because I wasn't watching WWE at that point. So, I'm willing to give it a go because, you might as well. It's not like TNA. I always
feel quite bad for Bobby Lashley because I always remember that, just as a quick aside, and then we'll get back to Lockdown, is that when he was kind of put in a no-win situation in 2007, when he was put in the Battle of the Billionaires match at WrestleMania 23, because everyone was expecting that match to be sort of two really big names that Trump and McMahon would have. I think there was talk of it being Shawn Michaels against Booker T or Hogan against Khali, different things. And they went with these two relatively new guys. And I thought that for how new he was, he did a good job in that role. But, he was just out of his depth at that point.
I quite liked that match, to be honest.
I liked it too. I think ever since then I've always kind of had a bit of a soft spot for him and thought, I admired how much he stepped up to that role at that point in his career, because it must have been really difficult to later into your career with WWE really be shoved into a storyline with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Donald Trump, and Vince McMahon and try to sort of hold your own. So I respect him for that. So I guess it'll be interesting to see where he goes in TNA. I've read various reports from the PW Insider and the Observer that we don't know if he's signed a contract, but then again, what the fuck does that matter at the moment with TNA? But he is in their plans going forward. So we've not seen the last of him. So for anyone who thought that it might be like a one-off cameo, apparently that's not the case.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Next up, we had the steel cage match between Manic and Tigre Uno, which was not too bad an outing. Pretty standard affair with Tigre Uno getting the win. And then, as this is kind of stuff we covered on Monday, Gunner versus James Storm. As I said on Monday, I actually thought the hype video for this match really sold it. If you didn't know anything about TNA, this would have probably felt like a bigger deal than it really has been presented. They did a good job, and I think Gunner actually did a really good job in this match. And the only thing that kind of made me laugh is that, there's this kind of weird thing that's happened where, James Storm has turned heel, and in this process, Gunner is pretty much where James Storm was, like, 2 months ago. He somehow has now become the beloved babyface man of the people. Like he has. Like he really did get a big reaction from that crowd. And James Storm has got like a different clipped beard and like pointy sideburns, and it looks like he's dyed his hair darker, and he's wearing sort of full length trousers to wrestle, like full tights, and he's kind of done the AJ Styles thing where he's gone dark and he's got new music. And I mean, I suppose maybe it's admirable in 2014 to see someone go, well, I've turned heel, so I'm going to dramatically change my appearance. Not everybody does that. And I actually thought, like, from bell to bell, Gunner and Storm was actually one of the stronger matches on the card, and I wouldn't have really thought that. I wouldn't have believed that to be the case before watching it yesterday. So
this kind of pains me a little bit to say, but Gunner did quite well, I thought.
It was a very hard hitting match. Very intense.
I still have a real issue with the position that Gunner's in, because I just think James Storm is better in that role than he is. But it's a losing argument that I'm not going to win, so I may as well just deal with it, because that is the phrase nowadays.
Well, I thought so too.
We'll get to that. But James Storm changed his look. I just want to cry because I love James Storm, and I don't know why they're doing this to him. But Gunner did really well. He stepped up to the plate in this match. I think they arguably had, bell to bell, probably the best match on the show in ring, I think. Because it was, a lot of the other matches had lots of bells and whistles, the kind of bigger matches. And this one didn't really have as many.
It felt like it felt like it could have been an old school NWA affair. It was just two guys wanted to batter lumps out of each other, and there was some pretty tough spots. Storm threw that steel chair right into Gunner's face, and then there was the superplex from the top rope through the chairs.
They did a good job, and I think even somebody like me who's a cynical Gunner bastard, even I would say he did a good job. So I assume now Gunner goes on to become James Storm Mark II, and James Storm
becomes AJ Styles Mark III.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really know.
Although when James Storm came out, it kind of looked like he was dressed up as Lance Hoyt at a Halloween party. But there you go. I enjoyed that match though. I enjoyed that match more than I thought I was going to enjoy it.
Yeah, Madison Rayne defended her Knockouts title against Gail Kim, also in a steel cage. This was fine. Gail Kim is one of the best female wrestlers in North America, but I just don't think that, I don't know if it's not that her heart's not in it anymore, but I think, she doesn't really have much left to prove, and it was fine. And Leah DeTapa was there, or like when the commentary team say her name, though, like to me when I look at her name typed out, it looks like Leah DeTapa, but they kind of say it like it's Lady Tapa, like it sounds like they're saying lady,
Yeah, no,
but
it does.
But we all know her real name is Tina Turner in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. This was totally fine. Kind of forgettable though, especially in a week where NXT are just absolutely whooping everybody's ass when it comes to female wrestling on television. So that's that. Next up is the steel cage match for the World Heavyweight Championship. You can only win by knockout or submission. Those are Joe's rules.
Here's the thing with this, right? And I know we kind of mentioned it on Monday. The thing is, TNA, WWE for a period of last year did some bullshit finishes between September and December on pay-per-view. And people were really unhappy about it, right? But on the whole, when WWE does title matches, they tend to be legit. But TNA is like the king of the swerve finish in these type of matches. And I just didn't think that this match needed this bullshit that they added into it. You know, Joe's about to win the title. He gets shoved. He gets taken under the ring. You think the fucking Undertaker's there or something, and all of a sudden Abyss is there with Janice, and I mean the fans gave it. The fans were booing, but it didn't sound like they were booing because they were like, "Oh, this is so good. You're such a bad guy." Boo. It was more like, "This is bullshit that you're giving us this kind of finish again. Boo." That was more the kind of boo they were doing.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, nice muscle buster from Joe, and then it looks like he's going to try and choke him out, and that'll be the end of it. Then the hand comes from under the ring and grabs Joe, and pulls him under, and everyone knows it's Abyss, and the crowd are chatting bullshit, and Joe sort of comes back out of the ring looking like a mentalist and trying to kick whoever's at him, but then Abyss appears. And the thing is that Abyss is unmasked, like he doesn't have the mask on, and I don't know whether they're just trying to go for like corporate Abyss because, if Stephanie has corporate Kane, then Dixie needs to have corporate Abyss.
Of course you know. But the thing is, I actually think that with Joe, in the last kind of month or two, they've kind of rebuilt Joe a little bit. This, it was just like, it's not a 2014 kind of story with these characters. It's just not. Abyss was kind of Abyss was a great TNA character, but unfortunately, the whole Joseph Park Abyss story kind of killed Abyss. Really.
Yeah, Joseph Park is arguably more over at the minute. And and I think the Magnus Joe thing was just something to tide over these UK tapings, and now I think Joe's going to move on to a feud with Abyss, which we've obviously seen before, and Magnus is going to feud with the man who returned for Lethal Lockdown. I'm not talking about Jeff Hardy / Willow. Willow's Way. Now this is really awkward and strange because when we went into this pay-per-view, I understood that, this was for control of TNA, but I knew that didn't really make any sense because MVP really needed the win early on to legitimize his return, but you're not going to take TNA away from Dixie. So what they were actually wrestling for, the steel cage Lethal Lockdown match, was for control of, and I quote, wrestling operations. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That silence there, that was the sound of me not caring. Like,
stupid.
Everyone the thing is, all the guys in this match have got really good value. I actually really enjoyed it. It was like a guilty pleasure. It's like, the only thing I can akin this match to is like when you go to the cinema with your Cineworld card, and there's only like one thing on, you go and see it and it's bullshit, but you actually really enjoy it, even though you know it's shit. But like, there was some good spots in the match when the Wolves were in. They really delivered because they always do. But at the same time, they've not really been that established in TNA yet. So, an MVP, like you say, I mean, MVP's in a really odd position because he's the he's the investor, isn't he? That's the name of it.
Yeah.
He's the investor that wrestles. Why is he wrestling? Why is he wrestling if he's an investor? I don't get it. So there's that. Jeff Hardy's returned as Sensational Sherry. The Bromance are painfully out of their depth in this match. It should have been Bad Influence, but they're a fun team, but out of their depth. Bobby Roode must just be kicking himself that he's a part of it. Austin Aries, tragically underused. Am I missing anyone, or is that all of them?
Well, that's pretty much all of them. The story of the match really is that Dixie does not want Jeff Hardy in the match, and the match kind of plunders along for a little while, or lumbers, sorry, not plunders. Ugh. And then Willow, lights out. It's Willow on top of the cage, and he jumps down on. But Dixie said that she had an insurance policy the whole time, so she can't argue with the fact that Willow's in the match, because she said that she didn't want Jeff Hardy there, even though the commentary team make it blatantly obvious who Willow is. The thing is, I know we all know who Willow is, but at the same time, we all know who Joseph Park was. But they kind of made that work. And this is just not, saying he's got charismatic tattoos, and that's an interesting move that he did there. It's just like someone else we used to know. Yeah, okay, guys, cheers for killing it. So then Dixie says, she comes out and stops the match and says she has her insurance policy. She's got a special referee for Lethal Lockdown, and it is Bully Ray. So the match effectively stops happening for Bully to come out and come to the ring, and then basically, it's looking like there's a point later on in the match where it looks like Roode is going to powerbomb MVP to the table. And then Bully Ray steps in front of Roode to stop him powerbombing him. And they have a standoff, and Bully shoves Bobby Roode out of the way, and MVP hits a Shining Wizard, and Roode is defeated. And MVP and Bully Ray sort of have a standoff after Team MVP win the match. But then they sort of reveal that they're pals, and Bully celebrates with Team MVP, and Dixie is raging because she has... she's no longer in control of wrestling operations, whatever that means. And Bully powerbombs Bobby Roode through the table. And pretty much the end of the show is Bully Ray sort of standing tall like the triumphant babyface, Arguably, the best heel in the company is once again being positioned as a babyface against Dixie Carter, which can only mean that Bully is going to go up against Magnus at some point, I guess, or Bobby Roode. I'm just not that enthused by Bully Ray as a babyface. It's not that he's bad at it. He's just so much better as a heel. And unfortunately, what I would have liked was, Bully spent the best part of last year embroiled in a long-running sort of soap opera-esque, twist and turn storyline. And I know some people are already saying, maybe this is all a ruse, and that Dixie sent him in to break it up from the inside. Well, the fact is you can't do that twice. You can't have, twice in 2 years, Bully's going to be the guy that secretly isn't really a good guy and helps the bad guys win, and then reveals that he was in on it all along. I don't think they're going to do that again. And also, I would have quite liked Bully Ray to remain impartial to this whole thing, like to be the lone wolf character that doesn't really take sides or get involved with MVP or Dixie. Kind of like Austin almost, which is a crazy comparison. But
it does feel like they almost carried out in 5 minutes what could have went over 3 pay-per-views, kind of thing. Like Bully Ray could have, he didn't have to go straight into being Mr. Babyface. It could have been built. But do you know what the positives of it is? That the main event was a lot of fun. All the characters were really good, and the crowd bought into them all. The crowd were chanting for Jeff Hardy. They wanted him back. He got a good pop. They really enjoyed the Bully Ray moment. So it was all that stuff was good. I just think it's at a stage now where we might disagree on this, is that I just don't think Dixie Carter as a television character is a positive influence for TNA going forward. I just don't think that I think she takes away from the product rather than adds to it. I think she's so over the top. Like, it was funny at first because she was so bad, and it was, she's getting a little bit better, but now she's just... every time she comes on, it's just like, oh god, she's so grating as a character, and not in like a, in a sort of not in a Vicky Guerrero type way, where that's the point. But just for me, the thought that this MVP against Dixie thing is potentially going to take us through to Bound for Glory, just it doesn't make me have any more interest in becoming a bigger TNA fan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just don't really care. Like, it's hard to. Oh god, it's hard to sort of to say it, but like I'm just so apathetic towards her now. I just don't really care about it. Like, you're right, it was kind of funny for a while, but then I'm just kind of going, oh well.
The proof's in the pudding, and there was 900 fans there. There was nobody on the hard side of the camera, and for TV tapings, you can kind of understand that happens because it's going to take them a long time to build up that audience. But TNA haven't had a pay-per-view since October, and the fact that their fan base couldn't even break 1,000 people for lockdown is just so sad. It's so sad.
Fans. I mean, it wasn't a bad show, and if you're thinking, if you're looking for a couple of hours of wrestling to watch,
there's worse
over the weekend. Yeah, there's a lot worse that you can cover. So, but shall we?
Let's talk about the show that everybody is talking about: Monday Night Raw.
Monday Night Raw, live from Memphis, Jack.
Yeah, live from Memphis, and it's funny. The show kicked off with Hulk Hogan coming out, and for the first sort of 20 seconds, I think if you put the video of him coming out 2 weeks ago to the one of him coming out, it was the same thing. Like, it's
yeah.
like the same pose, the same graphic, and all that. So Hogan comes out. I noticed on the way down to the ring, he wasn't quite as, I don't want to say agile, but he wasn't quite as kind of nimble as he was a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know if he had maybe a back thing going on, but he looked a little bit slower this week. But he came out and he was touting a big announcement, and Robert had obviously said on Monday night that he thought that it was potentially going to be Mr. T getting into the Hall of Fame, and it was an announcement that came out of left field.
Oh yeah, I don't think anyone could have predicted this.
Nobody bought it, and I'll be honest, like I really popped when I heard it because because what I thought, to kind of take you through my process, was when he was talking about all the he said that he can go back on the network and watch all of his WrestleMania matches, the ones with Andre, the one with Warrior, etc., Savage. I thought it was going to come down to him saying, but my WrestleMania 1 match was so historical that we're going to put it in the Hall of Fame. That's where I kind of thought it was going. And then he says that they want to honour one of the greatest superstars in history with an over-the-top rope, 30-man Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And then there was this kind of really awkward moment where they show you the trophy, and it just looks like a big chocolate statue of Andre the Giant. And it just kind of made me hungry. But I really like the premise of it. I think it's a great opportunity to get people on the card, like Ziggler, who's now an official entrant into the Battle Royal, that we might not have seen. There might be a chance to get a couple of NXT guys on it, maybe a couple of legends as well. And having it be an Andre the Giant trophy does kind of mean something a little bit, and I think it's cool. I like it. I didn't expect it, and I was happy with that announcement. What did you think?
I get it. Like, well, first of all, I think it's we had Punk watch. Now we've got Hogan watch. I love how every time he appears, you analyze everything down to the way that he walks the ring. Like, he's never doing another leg drop, Kenny. He's never gonna leg drop again, whether he's nimble or not.
There was hope 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh god, this is like I think honouring Andre the Giant is great. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I just don't really care about this match. Because truthfully, I don't really think it is about honouring him. It isn't. This idea was born not of how do we honour Andre the Giant. It's how do we get as many people as possible onto the card. And I just don't think... The simple fact is most of the people that are going to be in this Battle Royal don't deserve to be on WrestleMania. And I don't think everyone does deserve to be on WrestleMania. Does Dolph Ziggler deserve to be on it? Yeah, okay, Dolph Ziggler, performer, you can make an argument for why he deserves to be in a better position in the WWE in general, but does Dolph Ziggler, the television character, really belong on WrestleMania this year? Well, no, he doesn't. And that's no slight on him. It just doesn't really make any sense. So, yeah, I wish I could be enthused, but, it's a 30-man Battle Royal. It's not the Royal Rumble. It's one of the ones where everybody starts in the ring. So it's just like a cluster. It'll probably last maybe, no more than 10 minutes. And, how do they bring everybody in? Is everyone going to enter before the pay-per-view starts and it opens? Because they're not going to do 30 entrances, Is everyone going to walk down to one song like the Divas did and it's going to look really lame? I just think that, whatever time they give this, it could be a singles match with two guys who probably deserve to be on it more, or it could be extra time for another one of the matches on the card. I mean, look at WrestleMania 20. The way that they got everybody onto the card that year was by having all of those, multiple tag team matches with tag teams that didn't even really make any sense. They were just doing it to get people on there, or, cruiserweight opens and all that kind of stuff. And a simple fact is I don't think that cramming everybody in their ante onto the WrestleMania card makes it better. Just because everybody's on it doesn't mean that it's the biggest one of all time.
I'm not saying that. I think the Andre the Giant thing makes it seem a little bit more worthwhile, and it all really depends on what the outcome is. If this whole Andre Battle Royal is a reason to give somebody a push after WrestleMania, and this is the way they do it, that's fine. I'm sure it's a way to get... There's some people who deserve to be in the WrestleMania card, like the Big Show, or Mark Henry, I guess, to an extent. Guys like that who don't really have a feud or have a storyline, and...
well, if you don't have a feud or a storyline, then why are you on WrestleMania?
Well, because if you've worked hard all year and you've been on the shows and you've been a big part of the storylines throughout the year, then I think you do deserve to be a part of the show. I mean, that's like saying that, the Shield now seem to be together again and don't really have a storyline. Does that mean they don't belong on WrestleMania?
No, but they do have a storyline because they're not really together again.
But we don't know how they're going to play that out. But what I'm saying is, to say that people don't deserve to go on because they don't have a storyline is kind of redundant. It's more like Ryback, for example, is someone who doesn't really deserve to get on WrestleMania because he's not really a featured superstar. But there's guys like Del Rio, maybe Rey Mysterio, Big Show, who do kind of deserve a spot on the card, and there's not really anywhere else to put them. I thought they were going to do Money in the Bank, but now they're going to do this. And
these people get paid a lot of money, and the best thing they could come up with is, let's just put 30 people in the ring and they can all knock each other out. That's what they came up with.
I'm not going to shit on it till it's happened, because there could be a push that comes out of the winner, and if that does happen, then it might be worthwhile. I like the idea. I know you don't. Jim Ross weighed in on the idea. He said, just to read this out, not totally surprised that WWE is going to have a 30-man battle royal in the name of Andre the Giant, as WWE usually adds a multi-person match to attempt to gain as many talents in WrestleMania as possible. He does kind of agree with you here, though, because he says, I still remain firm that appearing in WrestleMania 30 is an earned opportunity and not anyone's rite of passage. With that said, I'm not unhappy that several talents will now get in the game. Good for them, and hopefully it doesn't cause the 4-hour marathon to be shortened on the time needed for the specific main events. So I guess we will see where that goes. But after that announcement, Cena came out, and Cena and Hogan had a little back and forth. Cena basically sucked his dick figuratively for a couple of minutes. Then the Wyatts came out, and Bray Wyatt cut a fantastic promo, kind of mocking Cena and Hogan and talking about they're both liars and how they prey upon the weak and all this sort of stuff. It was a great promo. And then Cena almost killed it with when he started singing Margaritaville at one point, and making fun of Wyatt's hat and his Hawaiian shirt and all these different things. But luckily, he kind of then brought it back to seriousness, because originally Cena had said that he wanted to be in the Battle Royal, but then he
which was laughable,
Yeah, because
completely
you knew it was
laughable.
never going to happen. You knew that
It was such bullshit. As Brian Elliott said on Twitter, there is not a single thing that comes out of John Cena's mouth in a promo from the last 4 years that I've ever believed. And
Yeah,
and
it's
and
pretty
this was just
legit.
another one of them. I mean, actually, Cena is such a sycophant of a character. He probably would want to be in the Battle Royal because he would buy into this idea that it's supposed to honor someone. But unfortunately for us, he doesn't get papped off on that. He's going to cut some more awful promos with Bray Wyatt perhaps and attempt to sabotage by doing exactly what I didn't want him to do, and that's make fun of him, because no one benefits from making fun of your opponent. It just
Doesn't draw any.
logic. It doesn't draw anything. It doesn't draw a single
But then
thing.
luckily,
You can't draw flies to shit. It's
Wyatt
stupid.
Wyatt kind of brought it back by saying, it's all fun and games with you, Cena, and you're going to get caught in the spider web. And then the Wyatt family approached the ring. Cena and Hogan are getting ready to fight them. And then there was this really awkward commercial break that they cut to right as something's about to happen. We come back, it's Rowan against Cena, with Hogan somehow has now become Cena's manager. And basically Cena ends up rolling up Rowan for the win out of nowhere. After the match, Hogan and Cena celebrate. Bray sort of feigns that he's going to make the Wyatts go after Hogan and Cena, but then they retreat. And then Hogan and Cena do poses together, and it's funny because I don't really think that the Hogan and Cena segment really did anything for Cena or Hogan. Like, it just kind of seemed a bit of a redundant moment. Like, it didn't feel. I remember in 2005 when Shawn Michaels and Hogan teamed up, and somehow that kind of felt natural. Like, it felt like they were kind of. It just felt right, like that they were doing poses and stuff, and they were having a laugh. But this Cena Hogan thing just felt really forced for me. And there was some chat on Twitter from, I think Brian Elliott had said at one point, and Mike Johnson from PW Insider, about what if they end up making it a tag team match with Hogan and Cena against the Wyatts. I'm 99.9% sure they would not even consider that. It's going to be Cena and Wyatt, clearly. Cena put out the challenge to Wyatt, and he would go on to accept later in the show. But then, Robert, your favourite couple, Triple H and Stephanie, came out onto the stage.
Yeah, they did. I can't remember what they did here.
Yeah, they came out, and basically Stephanie had mentioned that what Bryan did last week was grounds for termination, but they are bigger people, so they are going to apologise to Daniel Bryan because that's what's best for business, and they recognise value in the Daniel Bryan brand. Now, he's not a value like Randy Orton or Batista or Triple H, but he has a value nonetheless. He has a niche following, was the words that she used, and Stephanie here was so good. At being a bitch, because that's just her natural role in life. But and if eventually she says that Bryan just has to reciprocate and he has to apologise to them publicly later on in the show, and providing he does that, they can move forward. If not, there's going to be severe consequences. But luckily, as they were leaving, the New Age Outlaws came out, and we got to see them have a hug and a kiss, and all's right with the world. Were you happy to see the Outlaws again?
No.
No. So the Usos took on Ryback and Curtis Axel. They beat them. It does seem like we're heading towards the Usos and the Outlaws at WrestleMania. I'm not really sure why. Any ideas as to why this is still happening?
Because they have killed the tag team division Stone Dead. That just about 3 or 4 months ago was pretty vibrant, but all the teams are broken up. They're splitting up the Real Americans, they're splitting up the Shield, the Rhodes Dynasty, the Rhodes Brotherhood, whatever they're called, are pretty much, yesterday's newspapers. There isn't really anybody else for them to go up against at this late stage. I know there's still 4 weeks to go, but it's not really enough time for you to, write the Outlaws away. Maybe this is going to be the pre-show match.
Yeah, maybe. So then there was a backstage segment with Kane and the Shield, and Kane says that their dissension goes back to when Rollins and Reigns lost the tag titles to Cody Rhodes and Goldust. So he was going to make a match with Cody and Goldust against Rollins and Reigns. The Shield seemed to be a little bit more united again. They kind of made fun of Kane for getting beat by Bryan several times. And then we got Jack Swagger against Big E. And about the thing that baffled me about this was before Big E had even started the match, there was a backstage promo with Big E entering himself into the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Ryback entered himself earlier on, and he said that he can't wait to go out there and try to win the prestigious Andre trophy, which is fine if he didn't have the apparently prestigious Intercontinental Championship on his shoulder, which apparently does not mean anything, even at WrestleMania. Unless he's going to get it taken off him before the show, I don't know. But so then we had Big E and Swagger.
Which is just more of an angle. It's the same stuff they've been doing for the last couple of weeks. Swagger and Cesaro have a bit of a tiff, and that's kind of it. Again, we're pretty much at the same stage we were last week. They're drawing this one out. There
was a great post-match segment where Zeb lost it completely, started taking off his vest and telling them they have to shake hands, and Cesaro ends up squeezing Swagger's hand and overpowering him.
Yeah, that was pretty good, yeah.
So up next was The Undertaker, who has so many theme tunes when he comes back. So Undertaker came out, and but before he could even do anything, Paul Heyman came on stage and delighted us with just a fantastic promo.
Yeah, it was a really good promo. I just don't understand the misadvertising of The Undertaker. You know, they said he was coming to Raw to make an announcement, and he didn't. Unless you're counting, you know, Brock Lesnar's going to rest in peace. Undertaker, promo-wise, is increasingly reminding me of the Family Guy version of Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, where he says something, rest in peace. But Heyman will single-handedly sell this verbally for both men, involved in it physically, between now and WrestleMania. So he talks about the number of people who have had streaks at WrestleMania, name checks guys like Cena, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, you know, Mr. WrestleMania, and how none of them really made it past either 2, 3, or 4 victories in a row. So he doesn't mention The Miz, unfortunately, who does have quite a number of victories in a row. But it's a really good promo, and Undertaker does the whole rest in peace, rolls the eyes, thunder strikes, and Heyman looks terrified. And it's just it's a really good way. Paul Heyman, nobody else promos like him. Nobody else has a character like him, and it's certainly making it a lot more interesting, I think, than basically two guys who are not. Well, Undertaker's fine at talking, but Lesnar's not so great. So let Heyman carry the load for 4 weeks, because that's what he's good at.
Yeah, and Dave Meltzer had reported a couple of days ago that the plan as of now is for Undertaker and Lesnar to be kept apart right up until the go-home show of WrestleMania. So it seems like Heyman will be very heavily involved in selling this match, which is fine, because I don't know how much you do at this stage with The Undertaker to build up his matches, or how because it does seem like he's almost like this sort of like... He's almost like one of your mum's like vases that you just don't want to like damage before she gets home. And it's like Undertaker, you want to get him to WrestleMania. You don't want him to get injured beforehand, because last year he got injured with the Shield at one point. Did he not? When he got powerbombed or something through the table in London, and he got injured through that. So I guess he's going to kind of play it safe till then. Up next, we had a throwback to last October. It was Cody and Goldust against Rollins and Reigns. These guys could just have matches until the end of time, and it's great. I really enjoy them. Cody and Rollins in particular are just phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a really good match. It just, it just kind of, a lot of the positioning of people for WrestleMania is very strange. It seems like they had ideas of things that they wanted to do, and then they set them in motion, and now you wonder whether or not the Shield breakup shouldn't have been held back a little bit longer. Could they have done something with them? I mean, are Cody and Goldust just going to be in the... I mean, to be fair, Cody and Goldust are not as... they're not really setting the crowd on fire as much as they were 4 or 5 months ago, but the idea that they're going to be, with all that momentum and all that desire to be at WrestleMania, which I'm sure they have, they're probably not going to make it past that Battle Royal, which is a kind of sad waste of them, I suppose. But
I think the only hope that they really have of not being in the Battle Royal is if they decide to go with a multi-tag match for the tag titles at WrestleMania. But the interesting thing is, obviously, so Reigns and Rollins won the match. Very cohesive unit again. Rollins won with that fantastic stomp to the back of the head, and I love the spot where he power bombs them into the corner. Great, and there was also a great spot where Rollins was had his arms on the sort of bottom or middle turnbuckles, and Cody had grabbed his legs to try and flip him out, and then Rollins did a somersault and landed on his feet. So he's just a spectacular guy at doing spots. But anyway, so when Rollins and Reigns won, Ambrose came in to celebrate. The Shield is united going forward, and the thing is, I don't know if there is going to be a triple threat match at WrestleMania with these guys. It seems like if that was going to happen, that there would be some form of dissension here, but I don't know. I have no idea where it's going, where the Shield are going at WrestleMania. I'd be very surprised if they end up in the Battle Royal. But I can't. I don't see where, if they stay together as a unit, of who they could go up against at WrestleMania. I just can't think of anyone.
I don't think they will stay together. I think this is just a kind of week 4 or 5 of the story. That they sort of recoup and things are going okay. I imagine maybe as soon as SmackDown. I don't know. Maybe Raw next week. I assume something will rear its ugly head. I guess it depends on what happens with Ambrose in this US title as well. If he loses that at any point, that could be the trigger. I just I foresee that the split will probably go ahead. I think they're just kind of teasing the story out a bit longer by having them get back together and make it seem like everything's okay, because I don't know. I think they're just determined to do that.
And up next, there was a vote for the WWE app to vote for the next stipulation for Sheamus and Christian. The choices were 2 out of 3 falls count anywhere, or Memphis Street Fight. Unfortunately, the option go the fuck away was not there, so had to deal with the other 3. Then we got a tag team match with the Bellas against AJ and Tamina. Booker Sheet is back, and the Bellas would go on to win this when Nikki pinned AJ. It just seems like AJ is getting pinned a lot these days as the Divas champion. And then there was this really odd moment after the match where the Bellas won the match, and then Nikki Bella grabbed the Divas title, and then sort of had a stare-off with Natalya, who'd been on commentary. I didn't really understand that.
No, I feel like it's more Total Divas stuff. I mean, I kind of figured that maybe it was just something I didn't get because I didn't watch that show.
But even on the show, they're not enemies or anything, so I don't get it. But so I assume that at WrestleMania, the Divas title match or the Divas match is going to be something involving the Bellas and Natalya and AJ or something like that. So we'll see. Just a quick mention, Renee Young, again, as glorious as she always is, was in the crowd with LL Cool J and Robin from Batman.
Black Man and Robin.
Yeah, Black Man and Robin, wow. And they're part of one of the NCIS shows in the USA Network, and I just thought that they did a good job of seeming enthusiastic I thought it was worth mentioning. Like, there's been so many of these shitty shows that they're like, here's Dave and Steve from Psych, and they're like, oh my god, Raw, woo! Whereas these guys were like, Rennie Young asked them, who would you have on the show? And I was like, oh god, who are they gonna say? But they were like rhyming off Undertaker, Daniel Bryan, the Bella Twins. They knew what was going on. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I did have to groan at LL Cool J's. Yeah, we have a special mission for the Bellas. I was like, I assume that special mission is happening in your pants. Hilarious.
And LL Cool J, who looks the same as he did in 1999. O'Donnell, who has just successfully left rehab. Up next was Daniel Bryan coming out. Would he apologise as the authority had asked him to? I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, this. I'll be honest. When this started, I really hated this segment. Before it went to the ad break, I thought it was kind of awkward. And when it cut to the break and he was inviting everybody into the ring, it seemed like there was about 10 people coming in, and I was just like, oh no, this is awful, because they've taken something, something very organic in the support for Bryan and the yes chants, and they turned it into the yes movement, which I still don't really like as a phrase. I think it's a bit weak, and they'd made it a t-shirt and blah blah blah, and it just felt like that they very very quickly tried to hijack themselves something that was almost grassroots. But the return from the break was a completely different story. The ring was full of people, and it looked fantastic. It looked unique. I never really seen anything like this, and I was beginning to really get into it. Triple H and Stephanie obviously come out, and they seem really angry about the whole situation. Stephanie seems momentarily possessed by the demon Pazuzu, and or maybe it's just the roids, I don't know. And Triple H really sells the complete frustration and anger at Bryan, and they send down the Bashams to try and eliminate the crowd.
Doug and Danny.
There is one point where you see a guy in the crowd who's absolutely buying into this whole situation, and he starts shouting, "Come at me, motherfucker," which made me laugh. I loved that guy. Like, he really thought that Triple H and Stephanie were going to come down and set about him. And then they're kind of like, well, we're going to stay here no matter what. And Damien Sandow comes out for his match because Triple H insists that the show will go on. Damien Sandow, I wonder who he was going to wrestle. Remember when he was important?
Remember when he had a robe?
Yeah, now he shows a t-shirt. The gimmick's almost completely gone. Oh, well. But yeah, you know what? He was really made by that match with Cena. Remember, guys? Remember whether he was made by that match? So that kind of gets shoved aside, and but Bryan goads Triple H into taking the match. And be careful what you wish for, Bryan. You're going to have it.
But here's the thing. So he agrees to the match, and the segment by this point has been great. Like you say, we'd never seen anything like it. It was really different. And then I was sitting with my friend Dave, and we're both like lying on different sofas at this point, sort of watching the show, and we're enjoying the segment, and all of a sudden, Bryan says, "Wait a minute, that's not all I want," and we sat up immediately, like, no. Are they going to do it? Are they actually going to have the balls to do this? And Bryan then says that what he wants is the chance to be in the main event for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And if he beats Triple H at WrestleMania, he gets in. And Triple H, after sort of trying to get the security guards to go down and sort out the fans, Triple H goes mental. He starts trying to get through the security to get to Bryan, and he says Bryan's got what he's asked for. If he can beat Triple H, he's in the main event. And it ends with Triple H trying to get through security with them holding him back, and Bryan in the ring doing the yes chant. And it was just the happiest ending to the story.
Unfortunately, it wasn't the end of Raw, but I really think it should have been.
It was a great moment, and
he doesn't even just he
you know,
doesn't say I want. He says what everyone's been saying for weeks. He says the people want me to be in that title match.
and
That's what they really want.
I am glad that I did have a little bit of faith left, and I think that what maybe this does show is that when you count WWE down as always doing the predictable, sometimes they can pull something out of the bag and kind of make you go, oh, you're not so bad after all. So yeah, it's a great move. I don't think we'll ever find out, but I'd love to know at what point they decided to go with this, because I would very much doubt that the whole Batista heel thing was a plan from the beginning. But no matter when it happened, it's happening. They've made the decision to put Daniel Bryan in the main event. Well, to give him the opportunity to get to the main event, which I would be very surprised that didn't happen. And of course, it's now leading to people saying, "Oh, well, Triple H is just going to bury him." I can't even verbalize how shocked I would be if Triple H beat Bryan at WrestleMania. He's going into the main event.
I still think there's a possibility that he's not going to win it, though.
Yeah, there is that possibility, but I think he will be in the main event.
I think he'll be in the main event. There's a really easy tell. If the title match goes on last, I would say Bryan will win. If it's not the final match, then I think Batista's probably going to win, and Bryan will chase him. But I'm okay with that. I just didn't want a title match where I didn't care. And I care now. And if he doesn't win, that's not it's never about whether he won or not. It was just about whether
it's about his involvement and the story that he should be. And now it's like the Triple H match made sense with the last 6 months worth of storylines, but now it's went from making sense to just being exactly what it should be. And there's so many people now that are really looking forward to it. A friend of the show, John Canton, had actually posted on his Facebook page earlier on today, after the announcement had come out. He had said that he's actually now really excited about WrestleMania. What he says is he may be overly optimistic, but he thinks the lineup is pretty solid now. That Bryan, Triple H is a go, as well as him in the three-way for the title, mean he's likely to leave as champion. But things are looking good. They are looking good. But anyway, so that, like you said, that's not the end of Raw. There's still more to go. We come back to Sheamus and Christian in a Memphis street fight. And again, they have a good match. There's never a time when I'm going to say that Sheamus and Christian do not have a good match, but I don't know why they're fighting. I don't know why it keeps happening. There's no story to it. They tell a great story when they wrestle together, but I just don't get it. Sheamus keeps beating him. I don't really get what the story's going to be. Is it all leading to them having a match at WrestleMania where Christian finally beats Sheamus? I can't see that happening. So I don't know, but I guess to try and put a positive spin on it, at least it is a 10, 15, 20 minute good wrestling match on the show.
Yeah, I'm not really sure now. I feel like they've exhausted everything. They've had normal matches, gimmick matches. I mean, what else can they do when they put surely they'll just end up being in this battle royal. Maybe they'll be the final two in the battle royal. I don't know. And that way they can carry on their story. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good match, but and quite a hard hitting match for WWE and Raw in 2014. But I don't really know where it's going. But
and Sheamus would have welts on his back that you can see online that are pretty brutal. And then as just before we got to the main event, first of all, Alexander Rusev came out with Lana to do another promo like they've done before. I assume that maybe Rusev is going to be a guy in this battle royal as well.
I think he'll win it.
It's an option.
I don't see why they would parade him out every week before the main event and not do something with him. You don't. I mean, the thing is, they're not stupid. You don't debut a guy like this before WrestleMania, and why would they debut him before WrestleMania if they weren't going to do something with him? If he doesn't win it, then I say he has a pretty good showing in it, and it would make sense. They use the commemoration, if you want to say that, of Andre to put over someone else that's huge and dominant. But I just Lana's just, her voice just kills me. Pneumonia.
And
Pneumonia.
and also we had a backstage segment with Brad Maddox telling Batista and Randy Orton that the Authority had left, but they wanted Batista and Orton to put their differences aside for the main event against Bryan and the Big Show.
And I'm not saying this because I've never really liked him, but like why is he even still there? Like, I know he's meant to be the general manager of Raw, but at what point does he ever have any impact on anything that's happening?
Yeah, there's no reason for him to be around. It's like 1 minute you get Kane, the next minute you get him, the next minute you get the Authority.
Just get rid of him. Send him to NXT or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's actually not a bad idea. Maybe because he'd probably get some time to do stuff down there rather than just standing and doing this rubbish. Then we got. I like the way they did this. It was they were showing footage of Hogan's announcement from earlier on the show, and midway through showing the announcement, the Wyatts interrupted the clip to do another promo where Wyatt basically accepted the challenge of John Cena at WrestleMania and warned him about what he was in for. And for anyone who doesn't know, Bray Wyatt is 26 years old, and he's arguably delivering the best promos week on week, and he's in a top program with John Cena. So, I know some people might not in the last few weeks have been happy with the way some of WWE's program is going, but I think the fact that Daniel Bryan's potentially in the main event and Wyatt is in one of these top programs, and we've got the Shield and stuff, there are positives to look at going forward with WWE. Then we had the main event, which was the Big Show and Daniel Bryan against Orton and Batista. It was fine. There wasn't really anything to it. It was a bit flat after the stuff that happened before. People still loved Bryan, obviously. But I guess the important thing is that in the end, Bryan would nail the flying knee onto Orton and pin him. So Bryan and Big Show won the match, and Bryan pointed at the WrestleMania sign. Now, Big Show kind of was like a background ornament in this match a little bit. Like, he didn't take anything away from Bryan. He didn't try to overshadow him. He was just kind of like a friend in need. And yeah, I thought it was fine, but
it made me suspicious.
What, do you think the Big Show's going to turn on him?
No, well, actually, that did cross my mind. But I don't think I think it's too late for any of that now. Bryan's already got enough feuds going on, He's effectively feuding with everybody in Evolution apart from Flair now. But I just then was like, okay, so Bryan gets, the biggest segment of the night, a really unique promo. He gets the match with Triple H. He's getting put in the main event, and then in the main event of that particular episode of Raw, he not only wins, but he goes over the champion clean. And I'm just kind of going, okay, well, to make me feel a little bit more comfortable, I can't. This is going to sound odd, but I really kind of hope that they go back to dogging him between now and WrestleMania, like, getting, beat downs and Randy Orton looking more dominant, because if Bryan, the old saying, if Bryan goes heavily dominant into WrestleMania, then his chances are less of him succeeding. So I'm hoping this is just a night to let everyone know, you know what, we're not giving up on this guy. He is something. We know that. We acknowledge that. Look, he just beat Randy Orton, but I think next week we need Orton and Batista to assert their authority a little bit over this situation, and Triple H to maybe have a little bit of a physical involvement as well. I just think that is important to balance out the story.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if Bryan kind of gets his way all the way up to WrestleMania. But what I thought was really... I know that some people... I'd heard some complaints about, like, Daniel Bryan, the way that he came out and did the yes movement wasn't very cool, and Steve Austin wouldn't have done that. Well, Daniel Bryan's not Steve Austin. He's never claimed to be. That's not his character. But what he did do was, anytime he's tried to talk to Triple H or fight Triple H, there's always Kane interfering or whatever. So he made a stand in the ring and managed to get his main event and managed to get his match with Triple H. I thought the story worked, and I think most people seem to be more excited about WrestleMania now than they were before. Our VIP subscriber Tom Downey said about Raw he thought it was a bit good. He was hesitant when Bryan said the word Occupy Raw, but when he got back from the break, he was floored by the image, and the segment was brilliant. He liked the continuation of the Wyatt and Cena build, but that better be the last time Cena does comedy for the feud. Agreed. He also says not much progression with Undertaker, Lesnar, or Cesaro, Swagger in the Shield, but we got plenty of time left. He really likes the idea of a big battle royal with just prestige and a big trophy on the line. Get everyone in the card, and Hogan presenting the winner with a statue would make a nice moment. Overall, he's far more excited for WrestleMania than he was this time last week, or even this time yesterday. So people seem to be excited about where things are going, and I don't know about you, I wanted to get your take on this to kind of close things off. This time last year, it just did not feel like WrestleMania to me. Like at this point, you know, we still had like the primetime players coming out and doing Thundercake Patterson or whatever it was. But like last night's Raw, in parts, felt like WrestleMania season to me.
It was good. I enjoyed it. It was a good show.
So, yeah, basically, next week on Raw, there's nothing been announced yet, but I'm presuming we're going to get continuation of the big matches, more participants for the Battle Royal. I assume some of the mid-card is going to become a little bit clearer. And we now have 3 Raws left until WrestleMania. So the countdown is on. Any closing thoughts, Robert?
No, I think Tom Downey put it best, really. Things seem to be in a better position now, so we just have to buckle up, buttercup, and see where this goes.
And just to finish, how happy are you to be wrong?
I'm pretty happy, but I'll reserve outbursts of joy for April 6th.
Indeed. Luckily, New Orleans has beer, whatever happens. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the Inside the Ropes Raw Rundown. Make sure and check out Main Event this week. I think it's by the time you listen to this, it will already have aired on the WWE Network, but you can watch the replay. 2 title matches on the show, Dean Ambrose and Mark Henry for the US title, and Natalya and AJ for the Divas title. It seems like maybe the Divas title might change hands on the show. So we'll be back on Monday with another Inside the Ropes, and we hope you have a good week. And let's enjoy the fact that Daniel Bryan might be in the main event after all.